Kumlana Blackimora. Today's daf this is Thursday. Today's daf is daf Dalid Amid Aleph. Now the Brisa, we just learned the Brisa, but the Brisa says the pasuk that a girl who's a maid, the Yatzachinim ain't kasav, she leaves the Yatzachinim and ain't kasav, there's no money involved. So we darshan from there. The Yatzachinim is a girl who's 12 and a half years old, and ain't kasav when she's 12 years old. The obvious question is, if at 12 years old she's free, what do you have to tell me a pasuk at 12 and a half she's free? What you're doing there to 12 and once she's free at 12, there's nothing to go for. What do I need to pass that 12 and a half she goes free when you already know that 12 she goes free? So we're going to ask that question. Good, let's analyze this. When she's 12 and a half. Ain't constantly when she's 12. We'll lift the Rahman. Tell her just that a 12-year-old girl goes free. Obviously, she's free by the time she's 12 and a half. Omar Rabba says, I know what sometimes we say, whenever it says one extra word in the Torah, we always try to minimize the Kiddush. If the Torah would only said one word, I would have said, what age the girl goes out when she's 12 and a half. By telling us two phrases, and we know one is 12 and a half, so the other one must be 12. So that's why the Torah has to teach us both. Therefore, you need both words, because if only been one, I would have thought it's talking about the lesser Kiddush, 12 and a half. By saying the Yatzachinim and then Ein Kasev, that means it must be younger than that, 12 years old. The same thing applies to somebody who is working for a kohen, who is a toishiv, who lives by a kohen, or a toishiv like a permanent eved ivri who decided after 6 years he wants to stay on and he pierced his ear and he stays on till yovel, and that's a toishiv, he lives there. And then a sach is somebody who's been hired, and both of them cannot eat truma because a goy is kinyan kaspa you own, but you don't own your eved ivri, you don't own his body, you don't own him at all. So now it says in the pasuk Tanya, Toishiv is a konakin olam. That's an evidence that's there till Yovel. Sach is a konakin shon. Sach is only till for 6 years. Is Yomar Toishiv Yomar Sach. So let it just say Toishiv. Ma'adach, somebody who's working till Yovel is not entitled to eat truma because he's an evidiv. He doesn't really belong to the kohen. And surely somebody's there merely evid for 6 years. If you only there for a short time, surely you don't need truma. Why do you need both? The only reason is because if the Torah would have said Toshiv, I would have interpreted Toshiv means somebody who's an Eved for 6 years. How do I know it means somebody till you always try to mitigate the Chiddush. But because the Torah says both Toshiv and Sacher is the one at 6 years, so Toshiv obviously must be till Yovel. The same thing here by Yatzachinim and Kaset. You need both to teach you also begin. Either can you say, I remember I said Toshiv for years. I would have thought perhaps somebody who's there till Yovel Oichel. He's mamish like part of the furniture. But Sachiv will limit out Toshiv. That's why I try to use both expressions. Toshiv and Sachiv. That even though even though he's an Evet till Yovel and Oichel is neat. Amalei said, what are you comparing? You're comparing Bagris to the case of an Eved. Eved is two different people. One person is a Toshiv and one person is a Sachir. And we've only said one of them. I would have thought that the Toshiv is the one who works for 6 years. So it says both Toshiv and Sachir. But a girl, it's the same girl. Every girl goes through both phases. First, she becomes a Naira, 12, and she reaches puberty, and then 12 and a half when she becomes, a full adult. So if she was already set free when she was a Naira, there's no point in telling me that she'll be free when she's a Begera. It's the same girl. So why does the Torah have to say the Yatzachin and main cause of both? I want to buy it. Me dummy. How can you compare? You're giving an answer with one reflection of the Hasam today. They're two different people. Even if the Torah clearly would have said a Toshiv near Tziliyach. If the Torah would have said that a Toshiv was there till Yovel, you shouldn't eat. But how the cause of Idach, and then the Torah would have written separately about a Sachar. Okay, you'll tell me what it's extra. I know already. I would have said, okay, Sachar milsa da'aseh b'kavachayim. Sachar is something I could have figured out logically. If a Toshiv up to Yovel cannot eat truma, surely a Sachar can. Okay, you have a question. Well, we have a rule. Milsa da'aseh b'kavachayim is sometimes things which we can glean from a kavachayim. Written in the pasuk. Elahacha chagufi. Here it's the same girl. It's the same girl. So if if this girl left her master when she's 12, the bag is my begabe. What's she still doing there at the age of 12 and a half? So why does it Torah have to use two expressions, one for night and one for bagris? Ella, I'm going to buy it. Abaye said, you know what? Abaye says, in other words, if you're right, then we don't know why the Torah have to act. The Torah doesn't like to write extra words. The Torah could have just openly said, a naira leaves a master. Why say b'yatzachinim? And it's one, and Ein Kasev, and you'll tell me, well, Yischinim maybe the Bageris, and Ein Kasev is a Naira, and because it's so vague, we don't know which one it is. Taylor to write both. So Taylor could have said clearly Naira. And here you can't say, well, the Torah likes to say both things. Things you can think logically. It's not a question of logically, because once we know an Naira is set free, there's no Bagheris. It's never possible to be a Bagheris. As the Gemara Abai says, yes. Abai then says there is possible to be a Bagheris, and you bypass the step of Nairis. And that's why we need to tell you that a Bagheris also goes free. Which girl leaves by Ella? The island is a girl that doesn't show any signs. I would have thought Benaidos Tefik, I would have thought that Bebagros is you what do you call it? I would have thought that that only a girl who goes through the stage of Nairus is set free from a master. The Benaidos Tefik, or a Bagros Tefik, but a Bageres does not leave a master. Kamashlan, I come to tell you that even a girl who does not have the step of Nairus does get set free. Now, Taisa asked, and all the Rishonim ask an interesting question. An islandess is not really very certified. An islandess till she's 20 years old and she doesn't have any of the signs. So the age of 12, when she's supposed to be a Naida, how do we know that she'll turn into an islandess? We would have set her free anyway. We won't know for another 8 years. And even though there are a few signs of her voice is heavy and all that, it's still not certified as an islandess. So Taisa, what it means to say is, we would have thought if she reaches 20, okay, we would have set her free, but he reaches 20 and what do you call it? And she's an islandess, then maybe that you have to pay him out because the whole thing was a mistake retrospectively. And maybe and we would have thought it was never a sale because only a girl that could be a naira, and could be that the master has to return the money back to the father because he never should have sold her because she could be a naira. That's what it's saying. Thinking about it further, Maskal Marashi Mar Barabashi asked the question. Obviously, Abaye wasn't around, but he's asking a question in the yeshiva. The Lav Kalva Chayma, who again isn't a Kalva Chayma, we don't need a pasuk. What is that? A girl 12 years old. She doesn't yet leave the control of her father because we said that the earnings of a girl till she calls Shavach Nurebe Severe, that everything she earns, or actually what Abhuna said, because we said that everything that she earns goes to her father. And yet, at the age of 12, she leaves her master if she was a maid. Bagrus, a bagrus, she completely now is independent. Nothing that she earns goes to the father. Her Kiddushin is her own. Then surely, so even this islanders girls, okay, she reached Bagetis. I don't need a pasuk to tell you. He's asking the buy. I don't need a pasuk because it's logical. A Bagetis is more powerful than Iris. Completely severs the ties of the father. Surely, she severs the ties of the master. You know why I need a pasuk? The islanders. I would have thought that so wait a second. Abaye learned we would have thought. Sorry, I said a little wrong. Abaye said we would have thought that only a girl Nidus leaves a master, but Bagetis never leaves a master. That's what we would have thought. Bagetis leaves a master, and Islanders remains stuck forever. So Ramar Barashi said, "What do you mean? If Nairis takes away from the master, doesn't take away from the father. Surely Bagetis takes away from the father. Should take from the master." So Ramar Barashi said what we said before. Elamar Barashi, you know what we would have thought that was never a sale in the first place. Liikas Vina the Islanders. Can a father sell his daughter who will never become a naira? So I would have thought, if the girl one day will reach a naira, then the sale was a valid sale. But if she never will reach a naira, she won't be a sale, as Pesach says, and therefore the father has to return all the money. Says the Gemara, okay, Mar Baravashi says that what was his kasha Labaya? It's a logical thing. Of course, if a bagrus takes out of a father, surely takes out. Why would you think the Nile doesn't go out? But we just said a minute ago that even things that are logical, the Torah writes down. What's Mar Baravashi's question? Well, Mar Baravashi that he asked, isn't logical? There's a kalvachemer. Don't we say milsa the asir be kalvachemer torach v'kasel lakra? We find occasions that the Torah was still writing, even though it's obvious. We only use that rule when you have a last resort. I can give you a better answer. Mishanin will answer, and that's what. So Bai maybe wasn't disturbed at all, deterred by this question. But Mar Ravashi said, "I have a better shot." Okay, let's continue. So we learned from the pasuk the Yatzachim and Katzach. We also learned in the beginning of the Masechta from a Zereshava Kichim is the Ephron that money is valid for Kiddushin, and so on. However, there's another brayso V'tana Ma'islam Hocha. He learns from here, and it's similar to what we learned in the beginning of the Masechta. It says a pasuk Yikach Yishabol. If a man takes a wife and Ubola and they have relations, it says Ki Yikach. Then you have to give a divorce and so on. So we know that this cemented the marriage. And Kichel Bekesef. So what's Ki Yikach? Yikach is via money. The Chenu, where do you find that the word kicha is referring to money? Because it said by Avraham Avinu, he told Ephron, "Nasati kesev asoda, I gave you the money. Kach mi meni, take it from me. Take it from me." The Gemara, why do I need a pasuk? Isn't it a kavachaymer? What I need a pasuk at all? Again, the Gemara is asking this question, even though we said before. So what is a kavachaymer? We like to write psukim, but the Gemara says we don't use the resort. This answer that even though the Torah wrote it, we don't need it. Is only when we have no other solutions. So let's see. If a Jewish maid, she cannot be bought, acquired by her master through beer, yet she is what? We could be purchased through money. Every woman, one of the ways to get betrothed is through beer. Is surely should take the bekesef. So surely that you can, if money can buy an amma and not beer, then surely what beer means it's easier to have a relationship with a woman. Surely the money should be effective. So we say no, because Yivama is a chiach. It's not a valid kavachim, because I'll prove it from Yivama. Shaniknas with beer. Yivama also, how do the Yavam is through beer, and because the ain't no niknas bekesef. A Yivama gives money, it doesn't mean anything because already they're bound together. You don't need the money. It's only giving money is only with the rabbanon. It's called a maimer. But Mahatayda, there's no need for it because the Yavama and the Yavam already are tied together. There's a zikah there, a bond. So a Yavam does not have, there's no money involved there at all. Yet it's kind of beer. So we see that just because you're kind of beer, it doesn't automatically mean that you can be kind of a cancer. So that's why Kavachem is no good. But one second, a Yavam is not effective either. However, what do you call it? Over here, by Isha, we see that a star is effective. Since we see a star is effective, not only be able to star. So the Chayda tells us already different than Yavama. Don't bring Yavama here. Yavam, there's no star, and here there's a star. So get Yavam out of the picture. So we only learn from Amma. Have a Kavuchaymer. Madach, Amma, where there's no B in the Kesef is effective. Surely here would be as effective by an ordinary woman. Surely Kesef be effective. Therefore, I have a pasuk yichish. What are you waiting for? On the contrary, you just said a minute ago that we have a kavuchaymer. So we have a kavuchaymer. The question was, why need a pasuk? So why are you so suddenly so happy that we have a pasuk? Rashi said because the whole kavuchaymer is wrong. Forget about the yavam. Yavam was a red herring. Let's go back to the original kavuchaymer. You want to learn from Amma, right? You want to say if an Amma can get into can be acquired by money, so surely a woman can have a relationship through money. The whole thing is. Your very foundation of your kavachaymer, I can demolish. It doesn't make sense. Why? Where do you want to learn from? She came bekesef. On Amavriya is very easy to sever her relationship. How do you buy it back? So the pasuk mekesef miknasa. You work out, you calculate how much money was put in, and you deduct that, and then she redeems them and buys them back. So therefore, since if Kesef can work to sever her ties, so therefore it could also work to put her into a relationship in the first place. When it comes to an ordinary woman, we learned before Sefer Kursa and not money. Obviously, Abai has another reason. And because therefore, since Kesef cannot work at all by a woman to get to release her, how do you know that it works by a woman to get her married in the first place? That's why you need a pasuk. You need a pasuk to tell you no that a woman can get married for money. So now we have two sources that a woman can get married with money. One is the Yatzach Chinam Kasev, and one is the Skicha. So the Gemara, Itzach Lemichtav the Yatzach Chinam, Itzach Mitzvah Ki Yigach. You need both psukim. Why? Ikash Rachman Ki Yigach. Tell us that Ki Yigach. I never thought Kiddushin Diyov Labal Didohava. How do I know it goes to the father? Maybe says Ki Yigach Chisha. He takes her, he gives her money, and we said Kachim in money, and he goes to her. I know goes to the father. You know what do we learn? Where did we learn that the money enters the father? From the Yatzachina May Kasev. Ain't Kesev la'adin zeh, aber yesh Kesev la'nachad. There's no money going to this master when she's a maid, but it will be money to the other master, which is the father. Kasher Rachman of the Yatzachina. No, should say just that pasuk. Because the Kasher Rachman of the Yatzachina, I've never thought. Doesn't matter who gives the money to who. Doesn't matter if the husband gives the money to the wife, then it goes to the father. But if the wife gives the money to the husband, she's married and doesn't go to the father. But we don't know that the Torah is particular that has to be the husband that has to make the Kiddushin. I would have thought if she gives him money, then Kiddush. He has to do all the taking, and not that she should be involved. That's why you can't have a double ring ceremony at a chuppah, because then she's involved. We'll see more about that in the next one days. Says the Gemara tomorrow. Saying mother said about the bala, bala. What do you love the word bala? Like they have intimacy. Now what the beer works. Aladino is a kabachayim. That cannot be acquired through money, only through beer. So the solution we said there's more ways to start a relationship with a woman, and that is through money. Ain't a din surely shenik is the beer. That's what I'm saying. You want to know? Just because you can mean money doesn't mean anything. To look at beer. Shenik is the you can acquire an amma through money, but then you can't give a beer. A beer is not going to acquire anything. Oh, 1 second. The purpose of an amavri is not to marry her, but amavri is to work for you. Even though there could be marriage, you know that you could use the money of we'll see later that the money, according to one opinion, is the money of Kiddushin, but that isn't the primary purpose. The primary is to work. Makes sense why over there being is not effective, but over here where there's ishus involved, which is either yavam, or a case of marriage, and we see by yavam money doesn't work, but beer does. So surely by an ordinary woman, money works. Surely beer should also work. Again, the question. So what do you need the pasuk? You just explained to me. We can learn it from Yavam. So what do you need the pasuk? What are you getting back? What do you need the pasuk for? You just told me there's a good logic. Rashi, I can say Rashi said before. I can say that the very foundation of your kavachem doesn't make sense. And why not? Where do you want to learn that for Yavama? You know why Yavama money is not effective? What's the purpose of money? To start a relationship. By Yavam, the relationship already exists. There's a thing called Zika. Mala Yavama Shekin Zukva already exists. Taima Bazush Eis Kukva. There's nothing there. If it says Ubala, that's what it works. Let's continue a little bit further. No. Okay. Umanayish Avishtar. You have to go. How do you know also star is effective? Vidino makes sense. A kavachim. Kesef cannot release a woman from her husband, yet he can get her engaged, as we learned before. Star that releases the woman. No, the star is much more effective. So surely you should be able to start the relationship. So no, we see Kesef is more powerful than the star. Malik Kesef came paid by Hegdish Hasheni. If you want to redeem Hegdish that you donated or someone else donated, you have to use money. You can't write a contract. You can't write a contract to Bezin, to the Hegdish. I will give you so much money. It says, "Well, Nasan HaKesef come. You have to give money." Tomorrow I'm able to tell you about it. Of this Rashi. Star is ineffective when it comes to these things. Sheni. Says the Gemara. I'll tell you how we know. The same method that you sever your ties, you can initiate the ties. Makish havaya litzia. Ending a marriage to starting a marriage. You give a get. So you can start it with a get. With a document. Says the Gemara, if you can compare the two, so since money is effective to start a relationship, why can't you use money to end a relationship? You can start a relationship with money after you see because of Abai said the problem with that is people will say kesef machnis, kesef mighty, the very same money that starts such a wonderful relationship should be the thing that ends the relationship. We have a rule, Seneger Yasik Ateger, you want the advocate to become the prosecutor. How can that be? If the money starts, how can it end? So he jumps on it. What about the contract we say starts the marriage, and the contract, the divorce ends it? Says the game the same question. Says the Gemara. Abai said, "What are you talking about? The star, it's not the paper, it's the contents. Mili da hayshtar l'chud, umili da hayshtar l'chud. Doesn't matter. The paper is the same, but here you write the words, "You are engaged to me." Here you write the words, "You are divorced from me." Says the Gemara. So how can I mean? Here you give me money. Now, what exactly the Gemara's question is? And when I answer Tiba Mirchad, it's exact same money. The Gemara's question again. The Gemara thought that when you give Kiddushin money, it's not the money, it's the words that come with the money. Harei at Mukadeshli, when you give the money. So when you divorce, you say Harei at Muteres l'choladam. And the Gemara thinks it's the words that you're saying with the money that is really what's making it happen. So it's just like by a star, you tell me the words are different, it's different. And the Gemara answers no. Star, it's the content. Money, the money is the kinyan. The money, the words are just to tell you what the money, the kinyan is being used for. Therefore, since the money is what's making the kinyan, it's the same money. It's not the piece of paper making the kinyan, it's the words in the star that make the kinyan. So therefore, it's very different. That's a baya.
Value.
What makes the value?
Same. Value could be different than money.
Oh, we have to have that. But Yotza means exact money. Whatever works for this should work for that. You're equating completely. Says the Rabbi says on Macron we have, and this is what's quoted often in Shas. The costs of law you should write to her. Only writing divorce or not money. So if so, darshan ve'emo b'ksivim gadeshes. The aim of let's dash like this: that you can divorce with a star, but you cannot get married with a star. How do you know to say you can divorce with a star and not use money to divorce? Let's learn you can divorce with a contract, but you cannot marry with a contract. And we said, no, but so we have two things. We have two competing limudim. We have one limud that says, let's include something. That goes in, goes out. And then we have another limud that says, no, we come to exclude. So therefore, we're going to say that it's excluding a star, excluding money to divorce, including a star to get married. So the matter is, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it comes to include money to divorce and to exclude a star to get married. Says it makes sense. We're talking about divorce and we're coming to exclude something. We're excluding something from divorce. And that is what? Using money to divorce. We're talking about divorce and excluding something from Kiddushin. That doesn't make sense. So I'm going to quickly, the apple uses the pasuk that teach you cannot write a ksuva on a living thing, on a davar chaim, because it says, the cost of law, the sefer, has to be a parchment document, not on a living animal. Could be living before you can write it on a horn and all that. She'enim is gadeshes b'kesef and all this. He no longer has this extra pasuk. So where does he know you cannot use a paper money to divorce? Across sefer krisis. Sefer kursa and the kursa. He uses the word the cost of law, but here he uses sefer krisis. That what the two words together, that only a document can sever the ties and not money. But abundant high krisis, my what do they do with the word? No, you learn from the word extra word kursa. So what did abundant do with the word kursa? Okay, they're using the word we said before about that a sefer, not money. What do they do with the kursa? The boiler we already had before, the davar hakodesh ben levi. You can't have any strings attached. It has to be a complete separate relationship. How does he get a mashal tisha gain? I'm not I say you should never drink wine again. Never go to your father's house. Ain't that krisis? Kol shleish gain for 30 days. How days a krisis? And how do I know that? Because it's krisis. You have to end your relationship. Basically, how does he know that? Because Krisis said, Kodesh, Sefer Kodesh. Krisus teaches you that extra halacha. But Rabbanan, Kodesh, Krisus loy mashlu. They don't believe in Kodesh, Krisus. They don't think it's extra. Okay, we'll stop over here. Or actually, we can go to two. That's or okay. Okay, we said before you can't learn all of these. We try to learn from Amavriya. We try to learn from different things. Okay. And we asked each one you the pasuk, and the bottom line we couldn't learn from whatever we tried to learn from. However, tell us only, let's say kesev and shtar. We don't need a pasuk of bia. Tell us kesev and bia, no shtar. High cases. Let's go through it. Which one should we bring and which one should we omit? Delete shtar. Don't tell us about shtar. And v'teisi mahanach. We'll say if kesev works and bia works, then shtar usually works wherever kesev is. You know why kesev and bia works? Because there's a lot of pleasure there. Money and bia. Shtar is just a piece of paper. Okay, so therefore we would have thought it doesn't work. Okay, don't mention bia, but taste mention this kesem shtar. No, malahanik and yom ruba. I would have thought kesem shtar. You buy properties, money and shtar. Anything you buy, it has so many uses. But bia, it has no other use, so maybe it doesn't work. So don't write kesem. But taste mahanik. We'll learn from shtar and bia. Now I would have said malahanik sheken yeshna bal karchach. That what that bia is bal karcha by yavam, whether the yavam likes it or not is bal karcha, and shtar is bal karcha as well, and shtar is bal karcha as well. So therefore, we have what do you call it? These things work. For example, a get, you don't need the woman's consent, but kesef, you don't buy things unless the vendor and the buyer both agree. You can also use money by car, for example, by a maid. But there's no case of when it comes to marriage where you can use money by car, but a star you can for divorce, and B you can by a yavam. So therefore, each one of them had to be written.